Watching News at Prime, let's get into another important conversation. Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa says the country's energy availability factor will reach 70% by the end of this year. He also revealed during his budget vote that Eskom posted a projected mid-year profit for the very first time in many, many years. The minister joins me in studio tonight to talk us through what you did right. It's a moment of celebration for you, and massive congratulations, I think, are in order here, Minister. We're nearly at the end of winter, and we are talking less and less about load shedding. How did you do it?
Good evening, Xoli, and thank you for the invitation, evening to the viewers. Of course, it was a collective effort. I make the point that I think we've designed a template on how to resuscitate and rescue ailing SOEs in the country. Of course, the nuances will be different moving from one SOE to the other. The first one, I think, competent leadership is important. So at the level of the board, we have Dr. Mteto and a competent board made up of men and women with exceptional credentials, cut their teeth in the electricity sector, got involved in some of the marquee organizations in the country. So they understand the issue of governance, how you steer an organization the size of Eskom into calmer waters, especially when it comes out of a period of turbulence. And then at an administrative level or the level of bureaucrats, you must get the most technically competent. So I think we misdirected ourselves previously when you got someone at the helm who doesn't have an appreciation of how to run a utility of this nature. And really it's not to cast aspersions. I'm just saying there are lessons to be learned and unlearned from that experience. And also at the management level, at the level of a station, the doers, and making sure that everyone appreciates what is the vision, what is it that we are pursuing, and galvanize, marshal the forces in the right direction. Of course, the fiscal injection, consequence management, addressing, if you like, challenges around corruption, malfeasance, making sure that those who seek to soil the work that we are doing, they are called to order, they are put through the necessary processes, and then reward their performance. So performance related bonuses were able to help us to get out of an exceptionally difficult situation. As you make the point, 2023, EAF hovering early 50s. In fact, at some point we're at 49%. Now we have breached the 60% mark, averaging about 63%. At the end of this financial year, our target is to ensure that we reach 70%. And all indications suggest that we are moving in the right direction.
We're going to talk about the EAF in a moment, because I think at some point we were all energy experts at the height of service delivery, of load shedding. But I can't let you go on the score of the individual that you said was put at the helm of this institution, and he simply had no clue. Who are you making reference to there?
Oh, well, I mean, it goes without saying that the immediate past predecessor of Mr. Marokane was Mr. Director. So I think there's a misalignment of skills. So when you have someone who has not been exposed to an organization of this magnitude in this area of work, I mean, the sector of the electricity sector, the learning curve is prolonged. And you are managing a crisis, and what was the intention was to get out of the crisis. So you had to have a deep appreciation of how these machines work. So these are rotating machines, so you need to have an appreciation. You need to know what is it that needs to be done when you plan for an outage, what are the kind of resources that are needed. So I'm saying that the moment and the skills were incongruous, so there was no alignment of that. So it's only when you get out of an exceptionally difficult situation, a crisis, when you are now managing the issues around, if you like, a turnaround strategy from a governance point of view. You are introducing a deeper culture that you can think differently. But you needed someone who's steeped in this expertise of electricity and technical requirements. And the point I'm making is that when you are faced with such a crisis, you must make sure that you get people with the right skills in that position. Of course, I'm not about to suggest that an organization of that size can be dragged down or pull out of difficult situation by one individual. But the leader sets the tone, so the tone gets to be set there from the top. And is the one who provides guidance, and it's the collective of that leadership that must direct us. But ultimately, at a technical level, the buck stops with one person, and that's the CEO. So there's a lesson there, so we know what not to do going forward. Yeah. Unless you are resolving a different problem, then you get the right skills to resolve that problem. But you're in the midst of a crisis. You didn't have the luxury of learning how a rotating machine works. That's the point I'm making. I can't go tomorrow and perform heart surgery. Otherwise, I'm facilitating your meeting with the maker. I'm just a civil engineer. So that's the point I'm making. Okay. Unless if you are resolving a different problem, then perhaps I could be suited for that.
We've only got 5 minutes left, and it's so many issues I need to talk to you about. So very quickly, the energy availability factor. Why is it so important? And what is it that has been done correctly at these power stations that has elevated the projections that by the end of this year it should be sitting at above 70%?
So maybe in layman's term, is a ratio of what we have installed, the capacity of what we have installed relative to what is available. So that's the energy availability factor. The higher the number is, it means that that which we have, you are generating is closer to what you have installed. So the ideal number is 100%, but at any given time, there are machines that are on maintenance and others are failing. So the higher that ratio, it means that the performance is greater. So once we get closer to 70%, so it means that out of 100 megawatts, there's 70 available. So that's an acceptable number, but we can continue to do better. So the point I'm making was that an appreciation that you needed money to get these machines going. You needed to have the space available, and you needed to ensure that you coordinate the rate at which you schedule taking out one unit and retaining the other. Yeah. And that's why previously I was making the point that the short-term pain, long-term gain. I mean, if you remember when we went through the heightened levels of load shedding, I said that we are working on these machines. The Eskom team was working on them, and we are reaping the rewards about 16, 18 months later. It's because of the investments that were made previously. Are we out of the woods? No. I mean, at the right time, when I'm confident, we'll come out and say load shedding is behind us. But we want to get to a situation where there's sufficient headroom to allow us to do the kind of maintenance that is required. But we are moving in the right direction. That's the message I want to give to the country.
Okay. So, while load shedding may be receding, a viewer points out ahead of this discussion that load reduction is the real enemy of the people. That's how they have put it on the platform X. Where are we on that score?
They are absolutely correct. So if there's something that keeps me awake at night, is load reduction. But it's also the complexion of that load reduction. It's happening in peri-urban areas, informal settlement, areas of people who are less affluent.
Why is that?
And it gives an impression that there is a punishment to the poor. So really it's about the failure at the level of Eskom and municipalities to provide sufficient reticulation capacity, infrastructure to accommodate the load growth. By load growth, I mean the proliferation of informal settlements, greater levels of demand. So we have not kept up with that by replenishing and improving the capacity of the reticulation and distribution infrastructure. I had made the point that we're going to come out in public to share with the country what is the plan we are putting in place to resolve load reduction. I want to say to many communities out there, I mean, we hear their cries, we feel their pain, we understand their anger. We resolve the bigger monster, which was the aggregate generation, to ensure that it matches the aggregate demand. Now we're dealing with downstream intervention. The challenge with load reduction is that there is a geographic dispersion. So you find it almost in every community. That's where you find those challenges. So we must resolve from one community to the other. Load shedding, really, you are dealing with about 14 power stations, and you had to concentrate your efforts there. Yeah. Now it's over, I think, over 200 settlements that we need to attend to. So we'll announce to the country the roadmap. If we have not reached you, just know that we are coming. We'll tell you when. We have to start somewhere. I emphasize we are going to resolve load reduction and address the new manifestations of energy poverty, which is visiting the poor in the form of load reduction. So some of the things I'm saying for someone who's subjected to load reduction is meaningless. So you can give it any color, but the point is there are periods in a day where people don't have access to electricity, and that's what we want to resolve.
I don't know how it is that an engineer can pip a journalist from talking endlessly. We're now out of time, and I'm sad about this, but I have to put this question to you. The existential threat to South African electrical grid. This is the headline of one of the articles that I've assembled here. Those are municipalities.
Oh, yes.
What is the solution there? 3 billion rand is the amount owed to Eskom, unless it's more.
No, it's over 100 billion. I think we're 90, close to 100 billion, 98 billion. At the last count, we had breached the 100 billion mark. Let me make the following point, that really the fundamental problem is a structural problem. What is that structural problem? Is a price of electricity. If you had to do a study over 10 years, electricity tariffs have increased by 600%. So you are getting to a situation where an average person finds it very difficult to afford electricity. So one of the issues that we are attending to from a policy point of view, it's not an Eskom problem, it's not an NERSA problem, it's a policy point of view. We need to do policy adjustment to ensure that electricity is affordable without threatening the financial viability of Eskom and municipalities. And then the other one really has to do with the ills that have bedeviled municipalities, issues of hemorrhaging of skills, inability to plan, the technical expertise that has left municipalities. Minister Hlabisa is addressing that. Yeah. But we need to get all of that to work together to resolve the problem. It's affordability, it's the technical skills at municipalities, then you are having this combo. And an economy that's not performing. So that people who genuinely cannot afford because out of employment or in fact they are underemployed, they can't afford these tariffs. So you have to fix the structural problem. But there are other interventions that you can make technically, but those can get you up to a point. Yeah. Beyond that, you need to resolve the structural problems.
I'm not going to ask the question about when it is that you will make that all-important announcement that we have now seen the back of load shedding. You probably will have a long explanation for that. Yeah. But here's a quick one, very, very briefly. The National Transmission Company, where are we now? I know that it's now been set up as an independent company of Eskom. Where are things there now?
No, not exactly independent. It's still a subsidiary of Eskom.
Right.
So we're getting to what we call the transmission systems operator. We're working at that, and I'm confident that in the next 8 to 12 months, we should be having the kind of independence you are referring to. Yeah. But these are small steps, milestones. We move from one milestone to the other, ticking that box to ensure that we have an unbundled sector. There's transparency in tariff determination.
CEO of that entity?
We have, they are still out on the hunt. There's an interim CEO, Mr. Mondebala. They are looking throughout the globe, the right person, again to the first point we made. Get the person with the right skills. What are you resolving now? We are resolving two issues. It's an aggressive and expanded transmission modernization and expansion. So you need the technical know-how. Yeah. And then you are starting an organization from scratch that must stand on its own. Get someone with both the skills to lead that entity. Otherwise, you are going to plunge us into a crisis.
Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, thank you very much for your time, sir.